Hi everybody, we're all here today because Hardt Hyperloop has accomplished a big technological breakthrough that might change the way we're going to travel enormously, and that's what this whole live broadcast is all about. A warm welcome for all of you, for all the guests, for the press, and of course for the employees of Hardt Hyperloop. Give them a big applause. Yes. Tim, the CEO of Hardt Hyperloop. Today we're going to reveal big news, right?
Exactly.
Are you excited?
I'm extremely excited. This is one of the biggest accomplishments that we have with the company so far, and I really can't wait to share that with the world.
Well, tell us everything we need to know about Hardt Hyperloop.
Thank you.
He is the Chief Executive Officer of Hardt Hyperloop. Please welcome Tim Houter.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome friends, welcome family, welcome partners, supporters, also people that are watching a live stream, a very warm welcome. And I feel extremely grateful today to see so many enthusiastic people attending here with which we can share our developments. Because that's exactly where today is about. To share our developments, to share the developments of the Hyperloop that's being developed in Europe. We really can't wait to tell you everything about the finalization of Europe's first full-scale Hyperloop test facility. And we're also going to give you a sneak peek in the near-term foreseeable future on where those Hyperloop developments will bring us. But before we're going to dive into those details, let's take a step back and ask ourselves the question, why do we actually need a Hyperloop? Well, we need a Hyperloop to accommodate for the growing demand in transportation, and then especially in the aviation industry. Because this industry is doubling every 15 years. And this is putting a substantial pressure on our current infrastructure, but also on our environment. And if you only look at Europe, there are more than 150 billion euros of planned investment to accommodate for this growing demand. And even if we manage to accommodate for this growing demand, we still have the horrifying forecast that just the aviation industry by itself will already emit more CO2 than that's allowed for the entire world, which we've stated in our Paris Climate Agreement. Well, of course, that's something that we can't let happen, so we have to find an alternative. Now, high-speed rail is often proposed as an alternative, but that's just not able to compete in terms of speed with the aviation industry. So if we want to move further, going faster, on a sustainable way, something radical needs to happen. And now we've looked into all of the other possibilities, but there's just one viable solution. And that solution, that is the Hyperloop. It is the cleanest and the most energy-efficient way of high-speed transportation. And it basically combines the best of both worlds. At first, you can travel faster than airplanes, with more than 1,000 kilometers an hour. But secondly, you travel for the same convenience and even less energy usage compared to trains. And then to imagine that to implement a Hyperloop infrastructure, it is cheaper than to implement high-speed rails. And also the ticket price for the end user, which will eventually be all of you, is highly competitive to those of the current modes of transportation. And now to give everybody an idea of what that Hyperloop system looks like, that's going to make this all a reality, we've prepared a short video.
You've probably heard of Hyperloop, but what is it exactly? Hyperloop is the new mode of transportation for large volumes of passengers and cargo. Vehicles move through tubes, which create the ideal conditions for low-energy travel and protect the vehicles from the environment. Just like a highway, vehicles join and exit the high-speed network at any point along the route. Direct trips are made possible without transfers or intermediate stops. The Hyperloop network connects cities, countries, and even continents in short periods of time. We bring you safe, smart, and sustainable transportation. No boundaries, no limitations. Welcome to Hardt Hyperloop.
So now So now we know what Hyperloop is, but who and what is Hardt Hyperloop exactly? Well, Hardt Hyperloop is a visionary company, a disruptor, the driving force to make the Hyperloop in Europe a reality. And we envision a world basically where distance doesn't matter, so where you can go and stand wherever you want, whenever you want. And we started in 2017 after participating in and winning the first edition of Elon Musk's Hyperloop competition. And then we continued to develop a commercial, viable Hyperloop system. And when we started with that, we set ourselves 3 major goals, which we call our 3 zeros. The first of them is to develop a Hyperloop system that will have 0 emissions. The second is to develop a Hyperloop system that will have 0 delays in order that you always arrive and depart on time. And the third, and that's because safety is our highest priority during the whole design process, is to develop a system that will have 0 fatalities. So 0 emissions, 0 delays, 0 fatalities. And when we started with developing this Hyperloop system, we also noticed that this was something that we could never do that alone. So therefore, we're developing the Hyperloop with a lot of partners. And we do that in an open ecosystem. And that means that every company that has a certain core competence that's relevant for the future Hyperloop market can already work together with us and pre-position themselves in this market. And this is going great so far. We're working together with more than 50 companies from all over the world. And it's extremely exciting to see how motivated every company is to realize the Hyperloop together. And all the achievements that we have achieved up to date, and also especially today, could have never been possible without the support of our partners. So therefore, I would also say a very big thank you and raise a very warm round of applause for all the partners that make this happen. And since our beginning of developing the Hyperloop system, we've already made quite some steps in our 3 core activities. And the first of that is the technical development, where we have realized Europe's first full-scale operational Hyperloop. The second, that's the Hyperloop implementation, where we've done an in-depth study of a Hyperloop between Amsterdam and Frankfurt. And the third, that's on standardization, where the European Commission has officially launched a standardization procedure to work towards one unified Hyperloop standard. And all those developments, they could have never, ever been possible without one thing. And the thing I'm talking about now is, of course, the whole Hardt Hyperloop team. A team of almost 30 people that are working day and night, weekends, extremely motivated, dedicated, and passionate to make this a reality. So therefore, I would also like to raise a very warm round of applause for the whole Hardt Hyperloop team. And now we can almost get started with the rest of the program. But before we're going to do that, I would like to take you guys back in time. Back in time to a bit more than 100 years ago. To the moment when the Wright brothers did their first motorized flight with their first aircraft. And I bet back then there weren't many people that could imagine how this would develop and how the airplane would connect people and would enhance the development of society as a whole. Now let today, and more than 100 years later, let that be such a day that will lead to an even better connected world and a more sustainable future that will go beyond everybody's imagination. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim, for your guts. Seriously. And we're going to watch a video why this development is so relevant.
How green is the Hyperloop? Would it not be better to concentrate on improving existing modalities? Or should we not just travel less? And what about the economy? What opportunities does the Hyperloop offer? Is the investment in the Hyperloop worth its money? Time to talk about the urgency of the Hyperloop.
So what is the urgency? Why do we need Hyperloop now? That's what we're going to discuss with 3 amazing guests.
Please welcome. She is the president of the FME Ineke Dezentjé. He is the manager modeling and data analysis of Transport and Environment, Thomas Earl. And he is the chief commercial officer of Hardt Hyperloop, Mars Geuze.
Hi. Welcome, everybody. Mars, take a seat.
Thank you.
Mars, you're one of the co-founders.
Yes.
It's windy in here, huh? Yeah.
You won't have that in Hyperloop.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a little bit cooler. What is your role at the moment in the company?
My role in the moment, yeah. So we started as 4 technical co-founders. So I was very sure with all that technical expertise that we could do all the technology like we will prove today. But my role in the company is much more on everything with market development. So developing routes together with local stakeholders, looking at what kind of benefits can I get from a Hyperloop, what kind of steps can I take to get towards a route, working on the standardization. And lastly, everything surrounding the passengers, the end users.
It's a very young team, right?
It's a very young team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay.
Yeah, but we are, we're expanding, and we have a lot of diversity. We have about 10 nationalities in the team, so it's also very diverse.
Great. Why do we need Hyperloop now, in your perspective?
So if you look at all the different modalities that we have right now, you notice in each of them that we're sort of reaching the limits. You know, whether you're on the road, in traffic, or whether you're in the train, it's very difficult to fit more cars on the same roads. If you make them wider, usually you just get a wider traffic jam.
Yes, exactly.
But so obviously we need to invest into infrastructure. Now, sometimes you also get new opportunities of new modalities, and Hyperloop is one of them. And you could only look at it at it's a very high speed modality, but you could also say it's a modality with very high capacity. Many passengers can use it. It has a very high frequency. It's reasonably easy to implement along existing highway and along existing rail. So it's just a good modality to always take into account for anything where you have a lot of congestion and you want to make better connections between the cities.
But don't you think
the real specific niche where Hyperloop really jumps out is that it's the only modality that can go at very high speeds and is very efficient. And therefore, the niche of replacing short-haul flights with a more efficient alternative is really where Hyperloop jumps out.
But don't you think we have bigger problems to focus on? I mean, climate change, for instance.
Oh yeah, first of all, if you only focus at your problems and blind for anything else, then you'll miss out on some good opportunities.
The joy of life.
But this is also, this directly fits with problems that we have. If we're talking about climate change, and you can have the growth, you don't have to limit people's mobility, and you can do that with a sustainable alternative, that's exactly where Hyperloop would fit.
Okay, cool. Thomas, you work for Transport and Environment. What is it your organization stands for?
Okay, so Transport and Environment is a Brussels-based NGO. So we represent Europeans at the European level.
And you're from Sydney, right?
I'm from Sydney, but I've been living in Brussels for 3 years. Thank you.
Cool.
And so we, as the name suggests, we work on transport and environment-related issues. And we work with 50 membership organizations. So in the Netherlands, we work with Nature and Milieu and Milieu Defensie and other organizations around Europe. And we push for the cleanest policies possible to decarbonize transport in Europe.
And if you compare taking the plane by taking Hyperloop, what is the difference?
That's a good question. I don't know yet
Mars, do you know? You're smiling.
So we are aiming at being about 10 times as energy efficient as the airplane. But of course, there's still a lot of things that we have to prove there. Yeah. But that's sort of the figure that we're aiming at. Yeah.
So, in that respect, I think if we can take those numbers as they are, that would be fantastic, because Tim had pointed out in his speech that European aviation is growing 5% year on year, and so that means a doubling every 50 years. And we know that there's non-CO2 effects of aviation, so cirrus cloud formation, which almost doubles this effect. Yeah. And there's no current policy to limit or even reduce this kind of growth. So if we're going to wait
all my hopes are on you, Thomas.
Well, we're working on it. But we have to also be careful of technologies which might not be ready and which might come too late.
But why not invest in trains which are already there and just speed them up?
So that's a great question. Trains currently are one of the cleanest and most efficient ways to get around. Yes. And high-speed trains have been proven to take away traffic from aviation when the journey time is under 4 hours. But it is no secret that high-speed trains in particular are quite expensive to build. So it's a question of the investment potential, and would hope to see a Hyperloop that has good interoperability and it kind of reinforces rail and rather takes passengers from aviation, which is much harder to decarbonize.
And price-wise, we don't want to pay much more for the Hyperloop. What is the price? Is it like cheaper than a plane, or?
Well, we as Hardt will probably not be the operator, so it's still up to the operator to offer the right price.
But what are you hoping for?
Okay, so we of course take it into account in the business cases, because you have to see whether you get enough demand.
Yes.
So with ticket prices and then all the socio-economic benefits, you get a good business case. And that business case, with the growth of demand that we foresee, is already good if you take somewhere around 10 cents per kilometer. It's very competitive with aviation or trains. So that means that, for example, Amsterdam, Berlin will be somewhere around 60 euros. So that's not as competitive as the bottom of the flights, but with the average flight ticket market, that's very competitive.
But we have to start testing, I would say. And we have a good first route. Stefan Marché, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think what we studied on the Amsterdam-Frankfurt route was to see whether Hyperloop would fit multiple national policy objectives. On the one hand, we saw that Hyperloop could strengthen the connection between economic powerhouses, such as a route from Amsterdam to Eindhoven in just 15 minutes. But on the other hand, we saw that Hyperloop, as Tim and Mars already pointed out, could be an alternative to short-haul flights and focus on the decarbonization policies. But in order to combine these two policy objectives, you see that you are serving multiple passenger segments.
Yes.
And as a passenger to Eindhoven, you don't want to have them in the same vehicle, as you see right there, as a passenger to, for example, Frankfurt or Berlin or Paris. So what it requests of such a system is that we are providing direct connections in smaller vehicles, which are around 60 passengers.
Yes.
But that again then requests us to look into a different way of how you divide up your network. And what we want to show today is one of these key technologies that you would need to build up such a network.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ineke, you're the president of the FME. You represent the Dutch technology market. What is your relationship with Hardt Hyperloop?
Well, it is quite an intense one, because I think we fell in love with each other from the very right moment. Love at first sight, I must say. And that is because I
Why
feel...
is that?
Yeah, I will explain that to you, because I'm always looking at opportunities. FME is an organization with almost 2,500 companies, tech startups and multinationals. And I'd always try with my organization to connect people, because no one can do innovation on its own. And I think they just proved that they had the right partners to start up this. But also you need a lobby strength. So I stand by Hardt to see that also the government is working with us and is a partner for this beautiful pearl of innovation. And that is why I fell in love with the Hyperloop.
From Hardt to Hardt.
From Hardt to Hardt, absolutely right, because this is the pearl of innovation for the Netherlands, and that is what you want, that's what you're looking for. It is new business, it suits the profile of the Netherlands as being the second most innovative country in the world. Number one is Switzerland, by the way. They can also join, maybe, in the whole.
We need a little bit more competition, right?
Yeah, no, not too much, but.
Okay, cool.
It's much flatter, though, so it's easier to build a test facility here.
Yeah, right.
But here we have a test facility of 30 meters, but to test on full speed, we need a 3-kilometer test facility. And you're a big supporter of building this facility in the Netherlands.
Yes, because I feel that this really suits the profile of this innovative Holland. I think we make it a showcase also, because, well, we are quite a small country, so we do not have so many showcases like in Germany or France. Yeah. And I think this could be one of them. We have a very good reputation on the mobility, and this is really very innovative. Of course, the Netherlands, as a small country, is too small for the whole Hyperloop system, and that's why I think it should be a European project. And we could be really the center of this European project. That means that when we have a test facility, it will give a few hundred of jobs, because you need a lot to organize that. And we can also make a kind of, not really a kind of Disneyland, that's not what you want, but you can make it a showcase where you can show people what we are doing in the Netherlands in this field. And I know already that other countries are really looking to this project to maybe want it to them. And I would hate to see that happen. And I really hope that also our minister will be a partner and make this a European project in the Netherlands.
What would you advise the Dutch government?
To embrace this. That's all.
And you,
embrace
Thomas?
this, make it possible. If you look at the standards, let's accelerate and make it possible as quickly as we can.
And what would you add to that?
I think that it's we shouldn't ever close off any new technologies which offer a clean solution to what is a huge problem in Europe, and that's growing aviation emissions. So we have a neutral outlook on Hyperloop, but I think it could be a really positive development. So I'm not sure if I can advise the Dutch government, but on anything in
particular.
But but I think they should look at it honestly and see if it fits with them.
I was wondering, what kind of mindset do we need to make this Hyperloop system a success?
I think what Hardt is doing, also by this event, showing the world what is possible, because it's completely new. And we have to do a lot of work there, because if I am a real ambassador for the Hyperloop, as you already see.
Yes.
But if I mention the word Hyperloop, people think Hyperloop, Hyperloop, and then, you know, so yeah, you got to work on that too, and then you can connect people and join people.
How would you, when your friends ask you, like, what you're doing, Mars, then what do you say?
What do I say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Changing.
I mean, it's kind of, yeah, Hyperloop, Hyperloop, Hyperloop. Come on, what is it? It's not there yet.
No.
So what is your answer? What can we all tell? Like, okay.
No, well, you're sort of reinventing transportation. But it's
so modest. I mean,
but
it's so cool.
The point is, once you've built it, it's very much like any other transport system. I hope it's even more, easy to use and so on. But it's just like you get to a station, there's a vehicle there, the doors open, you get into the vehicle, you sit down, or maybe you stand. I don't know the operator, what they'll come up with. But it's not. It's just there's some new technology. It needs to be integrated into the existing modalities. But it's also, if we make it very science fiction, that's not really the case. It's much more tangible than.
But it sounds a little sci-fi to me. I mean, still, what would be, within what time would you say we can travel actually in the Hyperloop?
So we don't really need to invent anything really new. A lot of the technology is already there. We need to combine them in such a way that the whole system works. And we need to go through that whole process of doing these development steps. So we've done this step now. Afterwards, we're building a high-speed test facility. And we know step by step what kind of technology steps you want to take to prove this. And we're expecting to be able to prove that somewhere in the timeline between 2023 and 2028 to have all the certification done. And, ideally, you have that grow into the first route.
So within a decade?
You could have a first operational route within a decade. That doesn't mean you can fly through, or you can Hyperloop throughout all of Europe immediately, but at least you have it proven. And then you can use that to also make policy to, have it built all over the place.
Okay, cool. So we do a bet. You say within a decade. Thomas, what do you say?
Well, we hope that it can come quickly if it's going to come, because this is we have an urgent climate problem. We need to get to zero emissions by 2050. So urgency is really the key.
So within?
Say again?
How many years we can travel by Hyperloop?
Well, that's up to the guys at Hardt, I suppose. But,
okay, what do you say?
9 years.
9 years. Okay, well, give them a big applause. Ineke, Thomas, and Mars. Thank you so much. Well, let's hope that within a decade we can actually travel by Hyperloop. Luke is in the control room. Are you there, Luke?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, I'm standing here in the control room. This is where half of the magic happens. As you can see, our engineers are working very hard. And I think I'm very excited for this event. I'm really excited to give you a demo at the end of this all.
Hi, Luke. Hi.
Hi.
Luke, can you show us around a little bit?
Yes, of course. So what you can see here is our engineers. And on these screens, they control what's going to happen with the vehicle. Yes. They have sensor inputs. They have, for instance, acceleration, speeds, and those type of things. And among them is the switch. It's very important to know where you're going. it would be a shame to end up in Paris when you're going to Düsseldorf.
That would suck. I mean, big time, right? You've been working on this test facility for 2 years.
That's right.
What was the biggest challenge?
Well, I think there were some challenges. I think the biggest one was working in a small team. We accomplished this feat, I think, with 7 engineers. And
It's
we worked...
not so much.
No, that's
No.
not. We were each of us responsible for quite a big part of it all.
So you worked really, really hard.
That's right. And that's why it's super nice to have all these great partners that could help us in all the pieces where we didn't have the expertise.
And later on, you will show us the scoop of today.
That's right.
And then now we're going to listen to the story of Sascha Lamme about the great breakthrough, I have to say this correctly, of Hardt Hyperloop.
He is the Chief Technology Officer of Hardt Hyperloop. Please welcome Sascha Lamme.
Thank you. Thank you, Luc. Thank you, Frauke, for your wonderful questions. And it's indeed true that we could only have made this happen with the help of our partners, with the small team that we have. And it's my honor to all of you to today announce the first fully operational Hyperloop system by Hardt. And why is this so important? Because this is the first step towards a fully operational Hyperloop network around Europe that will connect every city within 3 hours. However, this would not have been possible by using the current modes of transportation that brought us here today together at this wonderful event. But they also connect us, and by that they allow us to share knowledge. And that brought us the opportunity to develop this brand new system that we can use to address the challenges of today, where we want to travel further, where we want to travel more, where we want to travel farther. And this, of course, pushes substantial pressure on our infrastructure and not only our environment. And that's why throughout the development of this system, we looked at these modes of transportation. We looked at the cleanest, the best, the fastest, the most reliable, and of course the safest modes of transportation, and applied their lessons throughout the development. So let me give you one of those examples. One of the examples is the Japanese high-speed rail, the Shinkansen. This is the safest mode of transportation on the planet, with zero fatalities over its 50 years of existence. Not a single person has ever died using the system. Also, it's very well known for its punctuality. Only have a 30-second delay over an entire year per train. So what makes this system so safe, so reliable? It's that this system was developed by taking safety and reliability as their #1 priority from the very beginning. And not only that, it is still their #1 priority today during operations and maintenance. And that's how you create a safe system. Because they realized that to make a truly safe system, you need to make sure that nothing can stand in its way. It's because they realized that 70% of the disturbances are caused by external effects, like cars getting stuck on crossovers, or trees, because the weather falling on the tracks. So that is why in this system you will not find a single crossover, and the entire system is elevated or put underground, so that nothing can stand in its way. And applying lessons like these, from not only the trains, but also from aviation, from cars, you name it, made it possible for me to present you today the system that we have come up with. That is why our system is also elevated, or can just as easily be put underground. It is why we have a tube to take at the air to make it possible to travel with 0 emissions. But this tube also protects us from the environment, to prevent trees falling on the tracks, to have a safeguard for the vehicles inside. And it is why these vehicles that we have in these tubes are very lightweight. Because using lightweight vehicles that can travel quickly and at high frequencies allow us to make light infrastructure that's agile and can easily be implemented and follow existing rights of way, and only requires a very small footprint. It is why our system uses a magnetic levitation system. Because with a magnetic levitation system, there's no wear in the entire system, and that reduces the maintenance cost to an absolute minimum. It is also why this magnetic levitation system hangs on top, because using this magnetic levitation system, we can do the most efficient propulsion. And of course, it is why our vehicles travel at high frequency, so that we have enough capacity for the decades to come. However, we also learned that it's crucial to be able to create a network to fully unlock the potential of the Hyperloop. And to do that, you need one crucial component. That component is the lane switch. It allows us to connect every city like a highway does. And that's really where our system shines, because we have developed such a lane switch. A switch that can connect all of us directly without any intermediate stops. And that's what we test in this facility, among others. We not only test the switch, but in this facility we also test our levitation system, a levitation system that can lift the full weight of a passenger cabin using almost zero power. Also in this test facility we were able to prove the propulsion, to accelerate the vehicle and then decelerate it again to bring it to a safe standstill. And in that process, we generate almost all of the energy to accelerate the next, making the system, of course, extremely efficient. And then, of course, what it's all about today, we tested our lane switch. A lane switch without any mechanical moving components, making it very safe and very reliable, and allowing us to take a lane switch and creating this network at 1,000 kilometers an hour. And that's why this test facility is so important, because it not only allows us to learn from all these other modes of transportation and apply those, but also to learn new things, and by that, reach our goals of connecting Europe in 3 hours with 0 fatalities, 0 delays, and 0 emissions.
So in the test facility we have in Delft, we are testing every component that Hyperloop needs to operate. We do that at full scale. And the latest we've come up with is the Hyperloop Switch. So based on our hybrid magnetic levitation and propulsion, we can actually create connections to tubes that are a bit like a highway, so in which vehicles go on, they join the main line, and then they can go off at any point. This is the beginning of the European Hyperloop network that stretches more than 10,000 kilometers across national borders.
Into this test facility, we have built the 3 core systems of the Hyperloop, namely the levitation, which is the component that allows the vehicle to lift off of the ground, creating 0 friction with the track and remain at a stable distance from it. In addition to that, the vehicle is now able to propel back and forth, which is what we call the propulsion.
So once the vehicle is moving, we use lateral tracks to actually keep it in place. And when we need the vehicle to go from one track to the other, we pull them towards one track. This way we can decide where do we want the vehicle to go. All of these components were tested in our facility at Delft, in which we have a near vacuum environment. Everything is controlled, and we test everything simulating real vehicle weight and size.
What is great about the realization of this facility, that it's not just the work of a single startup, but it's really an ecosystem that has been working together on this. So all of the different subsystems that are being tested in this facility are already co-developed and supplied by partners right now.
Steel is a vital component of sustainable future mobility. Drawing on Tata Steel's high-tech innovation skills and materials expertise, we support the development of Hyperloop.
2 years ago, we started our relationship with Hardt. And in the meantime, we have created a working system.
And especially during the whole process of getting this Hyperloop test facility to a finalized project, there were continuously more and more partners adding to help and to make it a reality. I feel extremely grateful about that. Especially the team has done such a tremendous effort to get it finished on time and make everything work. So it's truly amazing.
Sasha, this is so cool. And we were in the tube earlier today, and there Sasha showed me the switch. Wow, this tube is really amazing. Sasha, where is the switch, where it's all about?
So what it's all about is this part. This is the track that we use to levitate. And if we go down further, so the vehicle will move underneath and underneath. And then at this point, the track splits in 2. So here we can choose to either go to the left side or to the right side.
And then after a while, this one gets this size.
Exactly. So this one will continue, for example, to the left, to Paris, and the right track would go, I don't know, to Berlin or Antwerp or any other city.
But this is so simple. I mean, it looks really simple.
Yes, well, that's the beauty of it. There's no moving components, no mechanical components. It's extremely elegant.
Beautiful. Are you proud if you look at this?
Of course. Well, yes, for an engineer like me, I get proud when it works and it operates all as planned and designed before, as we did beforehand.
Great. Technology is one thing, but what we really need is a European network, and that's what we're going to talk about.
Please welcome. She is the Euro Commissioner of Transport, Violeta Bulc. She is the Dutch Minister of Infrastructure and Water Management, Cora van Nieuwenhuizen. And she is the lead standardization of Hardt Hyperloop, Alicia Kurjanova.
Hi.
Alicia. Hello, nice to meet you.
Hello, welcome all of you. Cora, you have such a busy schedule, but you decided to be here today. Why?
Well, I like to get out of the office once in a while, and the weather is nice. Seriously, I think what you feel here, it's all about mobility, it's about innovation. And that is, of course, in the heart of my ministry of infrastructure and water management. And what I like here is the passionate young people. You can feel the vibe, the passion they have. You can see that if you only listen a few minutes to them, you can see that heart is also in their heart.
Exactly.
And that is, I think, very good. And what I also like very much is that they work very hard with DT, but also with a D.
But who works harder, a
what we
minister
need.
or the employees of Hardt? What do you think?
Well, I think it's about the same. They say 24/7, so we share that. Also in weekends, that's about the same.
Violeta, you've been European Commissioner of Transport for 4 years now. What do you think of the Hyperloop technology?
Well, it certainly has a huge potential. I love the atmosphere, I love the enthusiasm. It's fantastic to see that university, researchers, industry are joining forces.
Yes.
It has a potential of disruptive technology, which of course we are always looking for. And when I was listening very carefully the argumentation why all the stakeholders are joining forces, it's almost like reading the strategy for 2050 put out by the European Commission, where of course we have and that is great news. Yeah, it's a Vision Zero on first pollution and emissions, second on congestions, and third one on road fatalities and serious injuries. So these are three clear goals in transport, but overall Commission also put the Vision Zero by 2050 as a commitment for the entire EU, using sustainable development and circular economy as the foundation of a new economical and social model. So we, on the vision side, we're together.
Okay,
so that's a good news.
done.
But let me just also say that I would like to very much welcome also the way how we are engaging the regulators with the emergence of new technologies now. We learned with drones and flying cars that we no longer can regulate the technology. So we are actually, for the first time, we entered into the new concept, so politicians can innovate as well. With a new concept of preparing standards and regulatory frameworks where we look at the risks and the way that the emerging new, especially disruptive technologies are used. So it's, of course, a good news that we are approaching to Hyperloop with the same kind of philosophy. So I do believe we will be walking the path in parallel, trying to identify all the possible elements that need to be taken on board for the safety or security reasons.
Like what kind of elements are that?
Safety, security,
yes,
and of course commercial outcomes. Yeah, and So what all the presenters communicated is, of course, melody for my heart, but now we need hard proofs. So what I can promise at this point is that we will continue to walk the path together. The Commission is acting as a coordinator already today between the stakeholders and member states and also administrative bodies, especially on the Commission on the EU level. So let's see what's going to emerge out of it, but certainly a very exciting technology that could potentially lead the way in the future.
And how important is it to work together with all these different European countries?
Well, that's the only way. I mean, the way how the investments on EU level and the planning of the infrastructure is managed is that we have so-called TEN-T network, which are the corridors that connect all member states. And of course, we're going to be looking very closely to development of this technology, because now we have plans to complete all the corridors by 2030. All major corridors, and then by 2050 to complete all the comprehensive networks. So if really the Hyperloop can offer something as we see it in theory now on the table, then this could reshape the way how we see the future development of the corridors, corridor networks, and also the next or beyond, because we already are connecting all Western Balkans, Eastern Partnership, Turkey, and even we're working now with Mediterranean countries to bring them on the same standards and the same regulatory framework. So potential is huge. The planning that we just engaged very closely with Asia, especially China, on a new Europe-Asia connectivity on land is ongoing. We are now making some progress on joint research on potential new connectivity routes. So, you know, the timing is good. It's all about delivery times.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And Cora, is the Dutch government like a big supporter of this?
Well, I think we've been involved right from the start.
And will you be involved? Do you really feel like, okay, this is really fun? No, but will you stay? I mean, this is it's like a marriage, you know?
We have
okay,
been, we
first
are,
you fall in love.
We will be involved.
First you fall in love, and then eventually, you know, it grows.
Well, I think it's very important that it's not just the Dutch government that is involved. I think the strength is exactly in that our dear Euro Commissioner Violeta Bulc is present here, because we cannot do it on our own. Not Hardt can do it on their own, not the Netherlands. We have to do it on a European scale, because the rest of the world is also scaling up. Elon Musk in the US took the initiative in 2013, yes. But also China is working on Hyperloop. India is involved. They are all working on it. So we should join forces in Europe as well. So we
have to stay alert.
First,
Alicia,
to set the standard.
Yes, exactly. Alicia, you've been working on standardization and regulation. Right.
Yeah.
How was that?
It's. I think this is a realization we came to. Not that long ago, that there is an emerging landscape of Hyperloops. Several companies are popping up, and the question we asked ourselves, are we developing the same technical solution? Yes. Do we think of the Hyperloop in the same way? And the short answer was no. So that's where the idea that standardization is important came into play. You know, next to safety, there's also another very important point, which is interoperability. In Europe, it makes sense to think of a network. Mm-hmm. But in order to be able to connect these individual routes that will keep emerging, it's important that these infrastructural parts are compatible. You know, rail is struggling currently with some of those operations. So these are the things we want to learn from, and not just with the existing industry, with rail and aviation, but also bring together the other Hyperloop parties who are also here with us today.
Cool. Well, we're sitting here with 4 women talking about technology, talking about innovation. How important are women in technology? What do you think?
Well, this is also not a balance, clearly.
I mean, how many women work for Hardt, you know?
Very important. I think there's, you know, the balance is really not in only gender neutrality, so to say, but also it's the expertise that comes in, all of the industries coming together. So it's there's many aspects that make an environment balanced.
Cora, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think it's always good to have diversity, but it's not so unusual that women come up with very bright ideas.
I know.
Just like windshield wipers, but also a very, very, very important one. Beer was invented by a woman. So.
Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Seriously? Well, we can applaud for that, right?
That as well.
Yes. I didn't know that.
Well, I have to say something about it as well, right?
Yes, of course.
Well, we have right now a process that will maybe, I hope, prove the concept. We want to have a balanced representation of female leaders on the EU level as well. So as we speak, these negotiations are going on. So I do hope that the negotiators at the end will send a very clear message that Europe is about being balanced and being at the stage that it uses all its potentials that it can in order to sustain the standard of living, to lead globally, in not only in technology, but in also definition of what the modern and prosperous society is all about. I always have a very strong message whenever we discuss gender balance, is that if you want to have a truly sustainable solutions, you need society at the table. And currently, 51% of women, 49% of men. So let's keep that in mind. And in all my teams, no matter where I worked, I always kept this kind of balance in a sort of as a natural way of putting teams together. And so far, there is no complaints in my career and in all the successes that we achieved. And that was because we brought really the social, societally aspect at the table and found sustainable, balanced solutions.
Yes.
So in the future, we need to do a lot in transport. We only have 23% of female workers. We only have 2% of seafarers, 5% of train drivers.
So we can become Hyperloop drivers.
Yes, exactly, 3%
Cool.
of rail drivers. So you guys can make a difference here. So I count on you to bring this on board as well. But above all, I'd like to pick up something that the colleague just mentioned before. Standards, and predefined, predictable regulatory frameworks are the key element for investors' engagement. So I would certainly encourage that we continue to cooperate in the way how we started.
Yes.
I think the Netherlands here lead the way. And you have been an inspiration and the motivation behind this cooperation. So I hope you will continue to do so.
Let's stay in inspiration, right?
Yes.
Can you give them a big applause, these three power women? Thank you so much.
I think our time is up.
And Lou, how is everything going in the control room? Are you ready to show us the switch?
Yes.
Yes?
We are totally ready. I have checked in with my fellow engineers here, and it seems that everything is A-OK.
So we're okay?
We're totally ready.
Cool. Well, meanwhile, we're going to listen to a talk of Ronald Lenz, and he's going to give us a sneak peek in the future of Hardt Hyperloop.
He is the global business developer of Hardt Hyperloop. Please welcome Ronald Lenz.
Wow, people, what a moment. So, we've shown you what is possible with this facility. We've been able to test and improve and prepare all these crucial technologies also for the next phase. And this next phase will be all about speed. And yes, we also, like we heard today, have the opportunity to make that happen here in the Netherlands. So let's start off with a short clip first. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very proud to announce the realization of our next facility, a high-speed facility, together with our industrial partners, and it's called the European Hyperloop Center. I mean, this is a 3-kilometer facility that will allow us to actually break the current Hyperloop speed record and test all of these technologies at 700 kilometers an hour. And yes, this has not been done anywhere in the world just yet. But why is this important? This step is crucial in actually getting to the standardization and certification that we need for Hyperloop technologies, both for passengers and cargo, that will bring us a major step closer towards actually building that first commercial Hyperloop route in 2028. 9 years, right? So this Hyperloop, European Hyperloop Center is a real collaborative effort. It's companies, private sector working together with government, with knowledge institutions to actually get to a European standard for Hyperloop. This needs to be an inclusive initiative, right? Based on open innovation that we know very well here in Europe. And therefore, obviously, it's open for all infrastructure companies, for transport companies, and obviously also other Hyperloop companies to join in. Because we need a collaboration of this size, of this magnitude. If we want to make a network, a Hyperloop network that we see here, that spans over thousands of kilometers, connecting all major hubs, and helps us to shift from aviation. In the end, this is not only a multi-billion euro market opportunity for infrastructure and transport companies. I mean, it's very much also an unprecedented opportunity for governments to really sustainably solve the grand mobility challenges for the next decades, and drastically reduce CO2 emissions. But let's zoom in a little, because this European Hyperloop Center needs to be somewhere, right? We know one thing that's for sure, this will bring a lot of international companies to the region. It will have a strong regional impact. They will test their technologies and develop their technologies to be Hyperloop ready. It will spark many SME-driven innovations in high tech that will cross over to different industries, a lot of impact. And obviously the relationships, the academic ties with knowledge institutions and universities will be there. But as for the location, there's a series of 3-kilometer locations in the Netherlands that have come forward as very serious candidates, both from TNO's assessment and our own, but the verdict's not out. So this is also me asking everybody to be in the conversation to find that ideal location that will have such an impact. So lastly, I mean, looking forward, we know the next 30-odd years will be very much about transitioning, right? Transitioning towards a climate-neutral society. And here's the opportunity. Here's what we can do with transport, right? Together we can really make a sustainable, fast, safe, new mode of transport for people and for goods that will help us achieve a major milestone, and that's to reach those zero-emission goals for 2050. So yes, a big challenge. We've done our first one, but I'm very confident we can do it. But I'm already looking towards you. I mean,
yeah, here it is.
Yeah, the big red button. So over to you.
Thanks you. So much. Give him a big applause, Ronald. Yes, we are going to press the red button. I would please welcome on stage 3 beautiful, wonderful women. With a big applause, of course, Miss Violeta Bulc, Miss Cora from Nieuwenhuizen, and Miss Ineke Dezentjé. And also, yes, let's not forget him, Tim Houter, the CEO of Hardt Hyperloop.
All right.
Yes. But first, we are going to watch a short video about how this facility was made. it's not that difficult. I want you to press the red button at 0. Okay, can we do that?
Hands together.
Okay, and please all count together. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Yes, there we go. And Sasha, you will tell us what is happening there in the tube, right?
Startup has been initiated, and we're now going to go through all the checks. So, Youssef, is the power systems ready?
Power is ready.
All right, Gert, are the levitation systems ready?
Levitation systems ready.
Mikael, are the air springs ready?
Ready.
And Bouke, is the switch ready?
Yes, it's ready.
All right,
Everybody ready?
so we have all systems ready. We're now going to do a levitation in 3, 2, 1. Levitation successful. So we're now steadily levitating, and we're now gonna, without 0 power, we're now gonna go for propulsion. So we'll have propulsion in 3, 2, 1, and propulsion successful. So we're now comfortably accelerating to the speed at which we will take the switch. And this switch, we have the opportunity to either go to the left side, as I've showed before, or to the right side. We're now approaching the switch slowly, and in the top left, you can see the track getting wider. And the switch is approaching now, and the switch has been taken successfully.
Yes!
So that's good
This
news.
was the
And now
switch!
all that's left for us is to come to a standstill, and the test has been successful.
Very well done. Thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to see you one day in an actual Hyperloop. Goodbye.